1927, at the 5th Solvay Conference on Physics in Brussels, Belgium, a new proposal of mind over matter was admitted to try to resolve inexplicable behaviors on quantum mechanics. With the greatest minds in physics attending, such as Einstein, Pauli, Dirac, Bohr, Heisenberg, Curie, de Broglie, Schrödinger, just to name a few, the subject of consciousness and the atomic world was at hand. Heisenberg and Bohr approached Einstein with a new theory that the minds of the researchers were affecting the results of the experiments. The mathematics of predictability were not repeatable and reliable enough to explain what was happening. Einstein could not accept this at first because it violated all mathematical models. Years later, he admitted it was happening. Einstein said, "Anyone who becomes seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that there is a spirit manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man." A spirit is not a mechanical force like gravity, electromagnetism, or the strong and the weak forces. A spirit is consciousness. So for Einstein to have made this great transformation can only mean that something convinced him that it was really happening, that the universe is alive, and we are part of it. Did great powers hide the truth about what was discovered at the conference because they knew they could not control us if we knew the secret powers of our minds and collective consciousness? All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force is the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics. The secret of mind over matter was known 18 years before the first atomic blast at Trinity Site, New Mexico, July 22, 1945.
Our current science cannot handle consciousness. Although some people like to say quantum physics can explain consciousness, the fact of the matter is that physics cannot deal with an experiment where a human being is involved in the loop. This goes back to the way quantum physics was originally built back in the 19-teens and 20s and 30s. Whenever there's a conscious observer present, he causes a collapse of the wave function. Now, the wave function is a mathematical construct that describes the waviness of probabilities of events at the quantum level. And quantum physics is a set of equations that describe how this wave function behaves. When an observer looks at an experiment, he causes a collapse of this wave function. He destroys information. It basically starts the wave function from zero, and things have to start up again. So an observer right now has a chaotic effect in trying to describe or explain what goes on when a person is in the loop. Currently, our physics right now is incomplete. We cannot deal with a consciousness affecting other physical objects in an experiment. We just don't know how to deal with it. So what you find is that most physics experiments keep observers out of the loop. They'll put a scientist outside the box. He gets to look in maybe at the end to see what the results were. But because his consciousness collapses the wave function, they don't let him in. It's like a bull in a china shop. He messes up their predictions, and they don't know how to deal with it.
We live in a world today where there's a hierarchy of power. There are very powerful people, and there are people with virtually no power at all. What's very important from a biological understanding is every human being is equally powerful in their creative ability to shape the planet. And then you say, well, if everybody is equally powerful, then how did other people gain so much more power? And here's the joke. They didn't gain any power. The reason they became more powerful is they took away the power from us. and that the evolution that we're experiencing right now is to recover that power, because when the entire population is possessing such power, there's more of a likely better resolution and harmony than a world today where only few people are exercising that power. And I really look forward to that evolution when we recover the power we've always had, which means going back and reprogramming our belief systems to own how powerful we are.
Human intention can significantly influence the properties of materials and the nature of reality.
As early as 1957, Professor Hans Eysenck, then chairman of the psychology department at the University of London, wrote a letter insinuating that there was a gigantic conspiracy involving some 30 major universities all over the world and hundreds of highly respected scientists to silence the truth about what we knew about the powers of human consciousness. After the United States Congress had access to the data from the Stanford Research Institute and from universities all over the country and all over the world, they were terrified of what would happen if we all developed the powers of our minds. It was clear that we could remote view, we could see into the future and into the past, we could find, missing airplanes and anything you can imagine with our minds. And they actually did a smear campaign with the media to discredit what they had discovered, because they didn't want us to know how powerful our minds really are. What is the language of quantum communication? How does the universe communicate from subatomic particles, wavelets, superstrings, atoms, planets, to stars, galaxies, and all living beings? Is there a communicative symphony happening all the time that remains invisible to our current technology and awareness? What if we understood its secret? Oh my God, we would know how to talk to the Creator, nature, science, and each other, and interstellar civilizations. Are we in communication before we meet in person? How do we as human beings communicate with each other? How do we find our true love, life partners, our soul matches, our families, business partners, our careers, teachers, and life purpose? And how do we find God?
Hey, what's going on? I'm leaving you a message. I'm really starting to get worried that you haven't called me back. And I guess, you're not leaving me much of a choice. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I've been needing to tell you via voicemail, even though it makes me very uncomfortable to do that.
Yeah, heart disease, the body is not a separate entity, all its different parts just acting alone. There's a mind-body interaction that has a lot to do with the development of disease in general.
I just wanted to let you know that I can barely live without you. I was paralyzed a couple of days ago, and I don't know, I've never really had the courage to tell you that you're the one for me and I can't live without you.
Stress on the brain will cause output of energy into the body that affects all your organs. It seems that some people have the propensity to discharge brain stress into various parts of their body, and certain people channel their distress into usually one place.